Welcome to Season 8 of the Finding Peace podcast. This season is focused on practical, trauma-informed tools you can use in everyday life. When emotions run high, relationships feel heavy, or your nervous system needs support. Short episodes designed to help you find more peace, joy, and connection, one moment at a time. Please welcome the host of the Finding Peace podcast, best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker, Troy L. Love.
Have you ever noticed that after a conflict, panic response, emotional spike, or intense moment, you eventually calm down and then somehow feel worse? During the conflict, we may feel angry, defensive, focused, numb, or determined, and then the argument ends. Our breathing slows, our body begins to settle, the room becomes quiet, and suddenly a completely different wave arrives. Shame, regret, sadness, embarrassment, guilt, loneliness. Sometimes the emotions that come after the conflict feel more painful than the conflict itself. And sometimes we can't even remember what the conflict was about, but we definitely remember that we feel crappy about it now. We may begin replaying everything we said. We might think, why did I react that way? I made everything worse. I needed to have handled that better. Oh, I messed that up. What is wrong with me? We might feel an overwhelming urge to apologize immediately, fix everything, withdraw completely, or punish ourselves for what happened. It can feel confusing. We finally calm down? Shouldn't we feel better? Not necessarily. Feeling worse after we calm down is not evidence that we have failed to regulate. It may be evidence that our nervous system is finally safe enough to feel what it could not feel when it was trying to survive. During this episode, we're going to talk about the emotional aftermath of dysregulation, why grief, guilt, vulnerability, and shame often rise after the danger seems to have passed, and how to meet those feelings without turning them into another attack against ourselves. So let me tell you a story about a woman that I will call Elena. Elena had been working hard on communicating more openly in her relationship. She had spent much of her life avoiding conflict. Growing up, disagreements in her home was rarely safe. People yelled, doors were slammed, the days of silence that came were lengthy. She learned that the best way to maintain connection was to stay agreeable. Don't ask for too much. Don't become emotional. Don't make anybody upset. Do not create a problem. And as an adult, Elena had often held in her feelings until she couldn't contain them any longer, and then they would blow up. One evening, she and her partner were supposed to be having dinner together. Her partner arrived home late and hadn't sent a text or called ahead to say that he was running late. By itself, this was a relatively small event, but Elena had already had a difficult week. She felt overlooked at work, neglected. A friend had canceled plans, so she had a rejection wound already being poked. She had barely slept the night before. So by the time her partner walked through the door, Elena's nervous system was already carrying more than it could comfortably hold. Her partner apologized and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I lost track of time." Elena had heard something different. What she heard was, "You're not important enough for me to remember to send you a text. You're not a priority to me. You always care more than other people do." So she began asking questions. "Well, why didn't you text me? Were you really too busy to look at your phone? How hard would it have been to let me know?" Of course, her partner became defensive. "I said I'm sorry already. Oh my gosh, it was just a mistake." That response activated Elena even more. Her voice became louder. "You always minimize everything. You act like I'm ridiculous for being hurt." Her partner responded sharply. The conversation escalated. Eventually, Elena walked into the bedroom, shut the door, and sat on the floor. At first, she was very angry. Her mind continued building the case against her partner. She rehearsed all the reasons she was right. She remembered every other time she had felt forgotten, neglected, rejected, or dismissed. Her body was buzzing. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts moved quickly. And then gradually, the activation began to calm down. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stopped shaking. The urge to argue faded. And then she started to cry. Not angry tears, deep, aching tears. She suddenly felt ashamed of the things she had said. She felt afraid that she had damaged the relationship. She felt grief from every moment of her life when she had felt neglected or rejected by those in her life. She felt the loneliness underneath the anger. Elena thought, I was doing better. Why am I falling apart now? But Elena wasn't falling apart. Her nervous system was changing states. During the conflict, it had mobilized to protect her. And once the threat passed, the deeper emotions underneath finally had room to surface. When our nervous system detects a threat, survival becomes the priority. That threat may be physical, but often it is emotional. We may feel rejected, abandoned, neglected, abused, ignored, criticized, controlled, betrayed, misunderstood, exposed. Our body does not always distinguish clearly between a present-day disagreement and an older experience of danger when one of our wounds have been hit. If this situation touches an attachment wound, our system may respond as though something essential is at risk. Connection is at risk. Belonging is at risk. Safety is at risk. Our body mobilizes. Adrenaline rises. Our heart beats faster. Our muscles tighten. Our attention narrows. We become focused on protecting ourselves. Depending on our survival pattern, we may fight, flee, freeze, appease, shut down, or disconnect. And in that state, our nervous system is not prioritizing reflection, nuance, empathy, or vulnerability. It is prioritizing survival. That is why people often say or do things while activated that do not really reflect their values. We may become accusatory. We may demand reassurance. We may withdraw. We may become sarcastic or cutting. We may desperately try to explain ourselves. We may feel almost incapable of hearing the other person's perspective. This does not remove responsibility for our behavior, but it does help explain why deeper emotions may not fully become accessible until later. During survival, anger may be easier to access than hurt. Defensiveness may be easier than grief. Control may be easier than fear. Blame may be easier than vulnerability. Our nervous system uses the emotions and behaviors that help us survive in that immediate moment. And then, when the activation begins to settle, awareness returns, and that is often when the feelings underneath begin to emerge. Think of our nervous system as temporarily diverting resources during a crisis. In an emergency, the system says, we do not have time to process all of this right now. We have to get through the moment. Once the emergency passes, though, the processing begins. We may suddenly notice the expression on the other person's face. We may remember the painful thing we said. We may recognize that our response was larger than the immediate situation. We may become aware of how frightened we actually were. We may feel the ache beneath the anger. This can create an emotional crash. The crash may include exhaustion because our body has expended energy. It may include guilt because we can now see the impact of our behaviors on others. It may include grief because the situation touched something old and sad. It may include shame because we believe we should have handled the moment differently. It may include vulnerability because the protective armor is no longer as strong. These emotions are not proof that regulation did not work. They may be evidence, however, that regulation created access. Our system is safe enough now to show you what was hidden underneath the survival response. The period after activation is especially delicate because guilt can quickly become shame. Guilt says, I feel bad. I did something that does not align with my values. Shame says, I am fundamentally a horrible human. Guilt will usually guide us towards repair. Shame often pushes us towards collapse, punishment, hiding, or desperation. Guilt says, I spoke harshly. That was not what I intended. I need to own that. Shame says, oh my gosh, I ruined everything. I can't do anything right. Guilt says, I withdrew without communicating. I want to handle that better in the future. Shame says, oh my gosh, nobody should ever have to deal with me ever again. Guilt can be informative. It can help us recognize impact, take responsibility, and make amends. Shame, however, takes a specific behavior and beats us over the head with it until it becomes our total identity. That's why the moments after dysregulation require compassion. Not indulgence, not denial, not pretending that no harm occurred. Compassion allows us to remain emotionally present enough to take responsibility. Self-attack often makes true repair challenging. When people become consumed by shame, they may apologize in ways that require the other person to comfort them. They may say, I'm the worst person in the world. You should just leave me. I don't deserve you. You don't deserve me. These statements may sound remorseful, but they shift the emotional burden onto the hurt person. Now the other person is expected to reassure you, the one who caused harm. Integration sounds different. Integration says, I can see what I did. I can see that it affected you. I want to take responsibility for that. I also want to understand what happened inside of me so I can respond differently next time. That is not self-excusing. That is mature repair. So, as Elena sat on the bedroom floor, her first instinct was to attack herself. She thought, you did it again. You are too much. No one is going to stay with you. Or if we want to say that in Finding Peace language, her shadows of shame showed up and said, you did it again. You are too much. No one is wanting to stay with you. Your partner's going to leave. She wanted to send a long message apologizing for everything she had ever done in her entire life. She wanted to promise that she would never, ever, ever become emotional again. She wanted to disappear. But instead, Elena remembered something she had been practicing. She placed one hand over her chest and another over her stomach. She took a breath and said, of course, this is here and now. My system is safe enough to feel it. At first, the words felt awkward, but she repeated them. Of course, the sadness is here now. Of course, I feel regret. Of course, I'm afraid. My system could not feel all of this when it was defending me. The tears continued, but something changed. She no longer was fighting the tears. She realized that beneath the anger was fear. She had not only been angry that her partner was late. She had been afraid that she did not matter. She had been afraid of being forgotten. She had been afraid that needing somebody would eventually lead to disappointment. that fear belonged partly to the present moment, but it also belonged to many moments that came before it. Once Elena understood that, she was able to approach the conflict differently. She waited until she was calm enough to speak without demanding immediate reassurance. And then she returned to her partner. She said, "Honey, I want to take responsibility for how I spoke to you. Your being late hurt me, but the way I expressed that became accusatory and harsh, and I'm sorry for that. When it calmed down, I realized that I was not only angry, I felt forgotten and unimportant. And that touched something older in me, a wound that has been there for a long time. Can I talk to you about what happened without blaming you for all that history?" Elena did not minimize her partner's responsibility. It was reasonable for her to want communication when changes happened or plans were rearranged, but she separated the valid need from the dysregulated behavior. That allowed the conversation to become more honest. The conflict was not only about lateness, it was about reliability, importance, old wounds, old grief, and the fear that asking for connection might make her too much. Those deeper truths became accessible only after the activation had passed. So here's today's Finding Peace insight. The feelings that arrive after calm are not interruptions in the healing process. They are actually part of the healing process. This is not the time for self-attack. This is the time for integration. Integration means allowing all the pieces of the experience to come together. What happened externally? What happened inside of our body? Which attachment wound had become activated? What story did our mind begin telling? What behavior followed? What emotion became available only after we calmed down? What responsibility belongs to us? What need or boundary must still be addressed? Integration helps us move beyond two unhelpful extremes. The first extreme is self-excusing. I was triggered, so I'm not responsible. The second is self-condemning. I was triggered, so I must be a horrible human being. Integration says, my nervous system was protecting me, and I'm responsible for how I behaved. Both are true. Our pain is worthy of compassion. The impact of our behavior is worthy of honesty. Healing requires both. When the post-activation emotions begin to surface, I would encourage you to try to avoid making permanent conclusions from a temporary emotional state. Try not to immediately decide, this relationship is doomed. I've made no progress. I am incapable of change. They will never forgive me. I should never trust myself again. I am horrible. That sounds exhausting. And our body is probably already exhausted. Our shame shadows may be really loud. Our perspective may be really narrow. We don't have to determine the future of our relationship while we're lying in the emotional wreckage of a conflict. We also do not have to force ourselves to feel better right away. The goal is to not rush past guilt, grief, or sadness. The goal is to create enough internal safety that those emotions can be felt, understood, and integrated. So, the next time you notice that you feel worse after calming down, begin by orienting yourself to the present. Notice where you are. Feel the chair, the floor, or the bed supporting your body. Notice that the argument, the panic, or emotional spike has ended or paused. Take a slow breath. You don't have to take an enormous breath. Simply let our exhale soften slightly and then say, of course this feeling is here now. My system is safe enough to feel it now. We might personalize the statement, of course the sadness is here now. Of course I feel guilty. Of course I'm exhausted. Of course I feel vulnerable. My system was surviving before, but now it's processing. And then we can ask ourselves, what feeling was underneath my reaction? Was it fear, rejection, grief, helplessness, humiliation, loneliness, abandonment, betrayal? We don't have to force the answer. We just notice what emerges. And then we ask, what part of this belongs to the present? And what part feels older? Perhaps the present situation was genuinely hurtful. Perhaps somebody crossed a boundary. Perhaps we need to address a pattern. But the intensity may also be connected to an earlier wound, and we can honor both. And then as we do that, we ask, what do I need to take responsibility for? Focus on behaviors rather than identity. Instead of saying, I'm toxic, I might say, I raised my voice. Instead of saying, I'm impossible, I might say, I became defensive and stopped listening. Instead of, I destroy everything, I might say, I said something hurtful and I want to repair it. And then we finally ask, what does integration require now? What might I need now? Maybe I need rest before continuing the conversation. Maybe I need to own my behaviors and apologize. Maybe I need to write down what I'm feeling. Maybe I need to revisit a boundary. Maybe I need to acknowledge an old wound that has been waiting for my attention. Or maybe I just need to remind myself, I can regret my behavior without rejecting myself. Now, take a moment and think of a recent experience when you felt worse after calming down. Perhaps it was an argument, a panic response, an emotional shutdown, a difficult conversation, a moment when your body finally stopped bracing. Notice what happened after the intensity faded. What feelings appeared? Was it sadness, fear, anger, shame, grief, regret? Just simply name the feeling and then say, of course this feeling is here now. My system is safe enough to feel it. And then pause. Notice what happens inside of our body when we say those words. Perhaps nothing changes immediately, and that's okay. We're not trying to erase the feeling, we're offering it a safe place to exist. And then we ask, what was this feeling unable to say during the conflict? Maybe it was trying to say, hey, I'm scared. Maybe it was trying to say, I don't want to lose you. Or I felt invisible. Or I needed reassurance. Or I felt powerless. I'm tired of being hurt. I'm sorry. Allow the message to be simple, and then we ask, what would it look like to respond to this feeling with compassion and responsibility? Perhaps I place my hand over my heart. Perhaps I write an apology. Perhaps I wait until I'm more grounded before speaking. Perhaps I say, I want to repair what I did without shaming myself for having a nervous system. And then we take another breath and let ourselves recognize the truth. The arrival of emotion does not mean we're moving backward. Sometimes feeling is more evidence that I am no longer running. Calm does not always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes calm removes the protective layer. It takes the adrenaline, anger, urgency, numbness, or defensiveness that helped us get through the moment. And then that layer lifts and we encounter the feelings underneath. It can be painful, but it also can be meaningful. The sadness may show that we matter. The guilt may point to how we might be able to repair the situation. The grief may reveal an old wound that still needs loving care. The vulnerability may help us speak more honestly. Please do not confuse access with failure. We are not getting worse. We simply may be feeling that our nervous system was not ready to feel those things before. The feelings that come after calm are not problems. They are access points. Access to the hurt beneath the anger. Access to the fear beneath the control. Access to the grief beneath the defensiveness. Access to the truth beneath the survival response. When those feelings arrive, do not turn against yourself. Gently say, of course, these emotions are here now. My system is safe enough to feel it. And then listen. There may be something inside of you finally ready to be seen, heard, and understood. Peace is not the absence of difficult emotions. Peace is the safety to feel it, understand it, and allow it to guide us towards healing. And you are so worthy of love and healing.
You've been listening to the Finding Peace podcast. Special thanks to Intrex for providing the theme music for this season and helping set the tone for reflection, grounding, and hope. If this episode supported you, please like, subscribe, and share the Finding Peace podcast. Your support helps these practical, trauma-informed tools reach more people who are seeking peace, clarity, and connection. To explore more resources, workshops, and upcoming events, visit findingpeaceconsulting.com. The Finding Peace podcast is hosted by best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker Troy L. Love. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of love and belonging.